Hello, everybody. Yeah, I have three experiences to share. The first one I'll share because I see it kind of relating to this Kevin's experience and the overall. In this experience, I would start out in front of a giant white doorway, and it had a golden sort of, or maybe like a bronze sort of handle with an old-fashioned style keyhole instead of like a modern keyhole. It's like the big one where it's the circle and the triangle kind of looking. And I was small enough that I could slip through the keyhole because usually you can just peek through them if they're the old-fashioned ones like that. But I was able to actually move through it. And when I moved through it, I came into this digital kind of realm where it really reminded me of something like the Matrix when he starts to see like the code because there was all these green numbers going up and down and they were moving around. And I had this impression that I was within this digital kind of realm again, and I was looking for somebody very, very specific. And as I started navigating through this digital kind of realm, all of a sudden from my left hand side, there was this something like an AI program. One of the AIs, I'm assuming, or really my impressions was that it was one of the AIs, was helping me look for this individual. And as I'm going deeper and deeper through this coding and I'm trying to find this individual, I become aware that every single one of these lines of code that I'm seeing is actually um, it's a person's mind, and it was sort of like being explained to me, not verbally, but kind of like through impressions where it was, and it was something like a prison for personalities or prison for minds that these reptilian controllers or these dark forces will say. They'll even offer it like a service. I was kind of seeing this that they whether it's elites or celebrities or whoever wants to, they can essentially get a copy of their mind made, or they can get uploaded into this kind of thing. And they the kind of word or impression that came to me was something like an enneagram, whether that's what they call the program itself or they call these copies. They call them enneagrams. And essentially you can have your mind and thing uploaded. So let's say the body was destroyed. Well, it's no big deal. They just make you a new body and upload your consciousness into the new body. So you can kind of continue your experience with all your memories and things like that, something that the elites themselves do. Essentially, this was the experience. I was going through this sort of personality prison. And I know, and I, as we were again navigating the code, the impression came that even though this is something that they offer as a service, it's also something that they have to serve as a kind of, again, of a prison or a punishment for whatever political opponents or this, that, and the other people that they don't want around and other things like that. They will essentially kind of snatch their consciousness from them, their mind, as long as they're agreeable, of course, through their other bodies, but they can take it and upload it into this something like a server or like a cloud, kind of like more so like a cloud server, and they're all stored there as code. And I was looking for this person, something like a scientist that they had taken prisoner, and I was going to help him navigate himself out of there so that he could help with the certain projects, which weren't revealed to me at the time, but I saw it kind of relating to all of this. So that was the first experience I wanted to share with everyone. I thought that was very interesting. So, and the second two experiences, they're related, but I had them on different days. I had one day, and I had one the next night, or both at night, but in sequence like that. And the first experience, it was like I woke up in my physical bed, but I was not in the physical level room. It was in one of the real sides, and I was looking around, I was looking left, and I was looking right, and I was immediately aware that I was not in the physical realm, and I was just kind of observing the scene to see what would take place. And all of a sudden, I saw something like this almost like a beam come down onto my chest, and it came out from, I couldn't exactly perceive where, but it was coming down into the center of my body there in that particular position, and it was creating this kind of emotional response, and it wasn't clear exactly what emotional response. It was just that idea of emotion creating in general through the astral body. And as I was creating this emotion through my astral body, all of a sudden on my left hand side I saw this white flurry of like light, and it was swirling and it was swirling. It started very, very small and very low to the, what I'll say was the ground, but not really the ground. And then it went to maybe about 6 feet tall, and it disappeared. And as it disappeared, it was another being. It was sort of like a projection that I had created. And and immediately I had the impression, I made the recognition, or I had the recognition that I had created this being out of my emotional responses. And and I remember I was looking at this individual, this being that came to be, and they started doing all kinds of things, walking around. They were already wearing clothes and different things, and I and it was kind of funny like that. I had never seen that and experienced before. I had read some things like that in some of the new books and things like that, but I never had that experience. It was kind of like putting two and two together for me. And and I really tried to focus on dissolving that agreement, on trying to get him to sort of like come back to me, but that's not exactly, just sort of trying to dissolve that agreement. And I noticed that I could not sort of bring it back to me, so I kind of just watched him walk off, and I had to kind of let him go. So I did. I didn't create more, that wouldn't necessarily make sense. So it was kind of funny like that. But so I had that experience. I made note of it, and then the following night, I had another experience very similar to that, where I was in this very grandiose mansion. Is something like I had seen before in my previous experiences when I had different confrontations with one version or the other of the Callum God. It was very similar. It was the same, as I came to find out. And at the very end of this mansion, which again was very, very tall, you couldn't see the ceiling, but on the left hand side, in my experience, as I saw it, was black, and on the right hand side, it was white. And in the middle was laying this red carpet leading up to this golden throne. And on sitting on this throne was this man, or sort of like a really a character. It wasn't, it was the body of a man as I perceived it, but it was more like a character. It didn't have sort of facial features almost. And it was wearing this helmet and this suit and kind of thing. And like, again, I couldn't make out the facial features, but it sort of wanted me to do all these kind of funny little tasks for it. And it was really trying to order me around. And I was kind of laughing because I didn't sort of take it serious in a way. And I was kind of thinking, well, who is this individual? And anyways, what happened was is when that individual started to realize, when this being started to realize that I was not taking it serious, and sort of like I was not willing to obey and just do, whatever it wanted me to do, all these kind of funny things that it wanted asked me to do, it blew up the size of the surroundings to 1,000 times. It made the body that I was in the experience look like a little atom. I was very, very small, or he tried to make me seem very, very small in relation to the surroundings. And when this was happening, I got a view of the physical body. In the physical body, I could see all this pressure building up on my chest, and I could feel this almost like a pain. And it was like the only way that I could relate to that kind of pain, it reminded me of like breaking a bone, because I've only broken one bone in my arm, and it was very similar to that. It felt like my ribs were gonna break from all this pressure from this experience. as he was blowing it up and he kept blowing it up and blowing it up, expanding it to try to make me seem smaller and smaller, I was reminded of that experience I had just the other night where I had created that being out of my emotional responses to whatever experiences. And so as I had that recognition, as I related to that experience and I brought in that awareness, all of a sudden the settings around me started to come back to their, we'll say, normal size, until they even started to shrink. And I noticed that he started to shrink with it too. And it was, he kind of started like almost like gasping and trying to fight it. And he was reaching out, trying to grab onto me, and until he just completely vanished. And that was essentially the end of the experience. But I thought it was very neat in that if I had not had that other experience in preparation for that, I would not have sort of been able to deal with that experience. It would have been sort of overwhelming. So I thought that was kind of neat, that little preparation that took place and the experience as a whole. So thought that was fun to share with everyone as well. Thank you for listening.
Hey, Jeremy. It's good to see you, young man. And yes, that's actually very, very good because we create these layers in our consciousness and then we identify with them. We all have to deal with what we create and what becomes the personal self. I do too all the time, and watch it, how it animates things and what it does. And so, as long as we're here, we have this vehicle. It's like having a car. Once you get that car, you just want to drive it, even though maybe you're not going anywhere. You just want to drive it. You just want the action, the feeling of driving the car, etc. And this is how the physical body is too, and the mind. It's an activity all its own in cause and effect creation, because cause and effect is agitation, is really what it is. It's an agitation, and everything we experience here is an agitation compared to the isness life is. And so, no, that's very, very good. It would be great if you wrote those up and shared those, because you're seeing the two, you're given a comparison there, you see. And so it's an exaggerated experience, and this is, what we go through. We go through these exaggerated experiences to be able to, get our attention, to pay attention to it, where things in our personal life become very common, and we don't pay attention. Like number one on the planet Earth is the air we breathe. And on a daily basis, everybody is poisoning it. But how many people are actually paying attention? Just kind of thinking that, that it's all going to be okay, that it'll resolve itself or whatever. And it won't. So this is constantly being created, and these considerations that are created, are kind of like put by the wayside, etc. So this is where we learn to confront, what we create. Just simply confront it. I remember when we kind of first met, the early days, and you were being harassed and whatever. And then on the real side, I said, confront these individuals, and you did. And then they just kind of went off. These were other individuals that were bothering you. And that's the whole idea here. It's not to uh, create more ideas that so-called cover it up or make it sound better or this or that. No, it's to be able to confront it and see it for what it is, as we are the creators. And eventually you realize that you don't have to think and you don't have to create, because the real journey, the reality of what all life is awareness. It's not about thinking and creating and stuff that's happening here. These are just things that are created, and it's getting through it and having the awareness. So that's a very good experience comparatively. And again, we have the air, the sun, and this endless sky is an example to compare with. And there's no attitudes there. There's no creation there at all. It's just, it best represents the isness life is, awareness. But again, you have the personal self to contend with, and it wants activity, and that's okay. So this is where now you can better manage the personal self because it has helped you recognize more so what this isness is and how to relate to it and the best references for it, you see? And this is where things become infiltrated to where people just look to ideas and labels instead of the actuality of what really is. And so this is a big challenge for people to wake up. That's why I tell people 50 years or a lifetime, because that's what it is. And it's taken me a long time. And still, little by little, it continues to appear, continue to see it. I just look to see it. It's not about thinking, it's about seeing. And so you get to the point where things can't be explained, but you create the best references you can to help people become more aware. And that's where I wrote one of these images, forget yourself. In other words, help others become more aware, and you will become more aware. That's the whole idea, because all life is what it is. That's the focus. And the personal self will just do what it does, and it's fine, whatever it does. Whatever you decide to have for dinner, whatever car you drive or where you live, that's fine. Don't matter. That's choice. But the advantage here is to step up, take the risk, confront what's going on, and be real with it and be creative to provide real references to the business life is. That's the adventure for all of us. So, yes, thank you, Jeremy. That's cool. Thank you so much.